Chapter 966 Another Incident. 1. Enchanting looked at the sword that was being placed before her. Her eyes did not even flicker. "How could we accept such an item?" said Yiling. "Master, please don't stand on ceremony with me. My grandfather is currently an elder in the Yi family, and I am also a member of the Yi family. Also, if I can help the eldest young lady in any way, I am happy to do so." Dan Yifan spoke smilingly. Then, he raised his eyes and looked at Enchanting, who still had not reached out to accept the sword. "Eldest young lady, please don't stand on ceremony. I acknowledge your good intentions." Enchanting looked at the sword that had been handed to her. She did not know whether to laugh or to cry, but her face showed no sign of her thoughts. "I also have a sword which I obtained recently, and am used to it." When Dan Yifan heard this, his gaze involuntarily fell on the sword at Enchanting's waist. He could not tell the origins of the sword, but it looked very ordinary. However, since Enchanting had said so, Dan Yifan could not force her to take the sword. Everything he did was only a formality, and he only did it because Enchanting was the eldest young lady of the Yi family. "In that case, I won't force you." Dan Yifan spoke laughingly. However, before he could store the sword away, another youth from the Yi family stepped forward. "Elder brother Dan, could you give the sword you had to me?" This youth was the great elder's disciple. Since young, he had been an ardent admirer of the talented Dan Yifan. "Why not? Take it then, but remember not to neglect your cultivation." Dan Yifan responded frankly and handed the sword over to the youth. The youth took the sword, and his eyes filled with joy and surprise. He reverently held the sword in his arms. When the other youths saw this, they could not help but feel chagrined that they had not taken the initiative to ask for the sword first. Although this sword could not compare to a yellow-grade weapon, it was also a top-quality ordinary weapon. Yiling looked at the youth who had obtained the sword. He turned to look at Enchanting with a complicated expression in his eyes. He was rather puzzled as to why his daughter had repeatedly refused Dan Yifan's help. One must know that with Dan Yifan's ability, Enchanting would greatly benefit if he could give her 1 or 2 pointers. However, Yiling did not say anything. He was afraid that Enchanting had refused out of pride. After all, Enchanting was the eldest young lady of the Yi family. Enchanting sensed Yiling's gaze, but she only smiled and gave her father a peaceful look. Although Yiling had not said much about the Yi family situation, what Enchanting had witnessed showed that the Yi family was currently in turmoil. "Great elder, you really have an excellent grandson." Third elder smiled and said to the great elder as he looked at Dan Yifan, who was surrounded by an admiring crowd. The great elder smiled. Although he did not say anything, the pride that shone in his eyes showed how pleased he was with his grandson. Just as everyone was talking and laughing, the main gate of the Yi house suddenly burst open. The people from the Duan family who had just left had suddenly returned. This time, besides the youth that Dan Yifan had injured, there was another man with a cold and arrogant countenance. "Elder brother Duan, it was this fellow. He injured me just now." The person that Dan Yifan had injured was bandaged. He lifted his finger and pointed to Dan Yifan, who was surrounded by an admiring crowd. The cold and arrogant man's gaze fell on Dan Yifan. It was as if his face was covered by a layer of frost. Chapter 967 Another Incident. 2. Everyone from the Yi family had been rejoicing, but when they saw the people from the Duan family, their faces fell. Duan Luaning, second elder, frowned as he looked at the cold and arrogant man. His expression was rather grim. Duan Luaning was the master's nephew. He was the same age as the Duan family's eldest son, Duan Tianyun. The two of them had studied under the same master since young and cultivated together. When Duan Tianyun returned to the Duan family in Lin Town a year ago, Duan Luaning came with him. Further, Duan Luaning's ability had improved rapidly with the Long family's help. Duan Luaning had not appeared the last time the Duan family had come to make trouble. Today, he had unexpectedly arrived at the Yi house. Was it you who injured someone from my Duan family just now? Duan Luaning spoke coldly. His flinty gaze followed the direction in which the injured youth had pointed and looked towards Dan Yifan. When Dan Yifan heard that, he smiled and said, "It was I." "So what? Can it be that you want to carry on? You injured someone from my Duan family. We cannot possibly let the matter rest," said Duan Luaning coldly. "Oh. What are you suggesting?" Dan Yifan raised his brows slightly. "Since the Yi family is unwilling to follow the rules, then tomorrow, our families will settle the matter with a match. If the Yi family wins, the Duan family will not pursue the matter. But if you lose, you have to follow the new rules," said Duan Luaning. "So be it. When was the Yi family ever afraid?" Dan Yifan immediately agreed. With that, Duan Luaning laughed coldly and led the others away from the Yi house. The injured youth from the Duan family only spoke when they had left the main gate of the Yi house. "Elder brother Duan, are we just going to let that fellow from the Yi family get away with it?" Duan Luaning said, "Get away with it? Dream on. Then, the Yi family has always ignored the new rules. It is time that the Yi family recognized this problem. In the arena tomorrow, the Duan family will force the Yi family to acknowledge that they have no more standing in Lin Town." A cold look flashed across Duan Luaning's eyes. "I don't just want the Yi family to lose. I want them to completely lose their face in Lin Town. Many people in Lin Town will come to the match tomorrow. Then, we will use the Yi family as a warning and let everyone in Lin Town see who calls the shots in here." After Duan Luaning spoke, everyone from the Duan family immediately grasped what he not say anything more. They only waited for the next day's match to have a reckoning with the Yi family. In the Yi family, everyone had different thoughts regarding the Duan family's challenge. The Duan family had previously acted arrogantly. Now that Dan Yifan had arrived at the Yi house, the Yi family might not need to fear the Duan family. "Yifan, you will fight in tomorrow's match." The great elder looked at his grandson. "Yes," said Dan Yifan said graciously. Then, the great elder looked at Yi Ling. "Why not let the younger members of the Yi family attend tomorrow as well?" "Very well." Yi Ling nodded in agreement. The younger members of the Yi family had been oppressed by the Duan family for some time. Now that Dan Yifan had arrived, they might as well use the next day's match to regain some of the Yi family's prestige. It would also be a good opportunity to vindicate the younger members of the Yi family, who had been oppressed by the Duan family. "Tang Tang, you should also go with us tomorrow." Yi Ling turned to look at Yi Qing Tang. Although he did not say so explicitly, the truth was that he hoped Yi Qing Tang could learn something from Dan Yifan. Perhaps, it would be of some help to her when she returned to the sect in the future. Chapter 968 Another Incident, 3. Very well. Yi Qing Tang did not say much, but she guessed her father's intentions. After all, her father meant well. "I think that Dan Yifan can handle the match alone tomorrow, but it would be good if the rest can go along and watch. Perhaps they can learn something." Third elder looked at the younger members of the Yi family as he spoke. Dan Yifan's abilities were far superior to that of an ordinary person. It was a pity that he could not stay long with the Yi family. If they could take the opportunity tomorrow to suppress the Duan family and also allow others to pick up a move or two, that would be greatly beneficial. "Yifan, you should rest since you just arrived," said the great elder. "Yes." Dan Yifan bowed slightly. However, the younger members of the Yi family all looked eagerly at Dan Yifan, their expressions clearly expectant. They longed to learn more from Dan Yifan, but since the great elder was present, they could not speak out. "If there is anything you want to ask, you can come to my room after dinner." Dan Yifan had noticed everyone's expressions, and he spoke smilingly. Everyone brightened at these words. The great elder could not help but laugh and shake his head, but his eyes revealed his self-confidence. Of course his grandson was outstanding. Enchanting did not react at all as she saw the admiring crowd cluster around the departing Dan Yifan. Tang, Yiling almost wanted to counsel Enchanting to ask Dan Yifan for some pointers. But Enchanting said, "Father, I am rather tired. I'll go and rest now." Yiling could think of nothing to say. He could only nod in concern. Enchanting immediately sneaked off. The great elder and third elder silently shook their heads as they looked at Enchanting's departing figure. Although martial arts practitioners had their pride, they should not be ashamed to ask for help. Dan Yifan had repeatedly tried to help Enchanting, but Enchanting had rejected him again and again. They did not know if it was because she could not bear to lower herself from her status as eldest young lady. They were displeased with her attitude. "Master, the eldest young lady should change her attitude. Yifan will not be with the Yi family for long. If she doesn't grasp the opportunity to learn some pointers, it will be too late by the time she returns to the sect." Third elder counseled tactfully. Everyone knew that within the sects, there was a great divide between inner and outer sections. Yiling was helpless, but he inwardly respected Enchanting's wishes and did not say anything. The moment slipped past, and before they knew it, it was the dawn of the next day. This was the day of the match between the Duan family and the Yi family. Dan Yifan was ready early in the morning. As the younger members of the Yi family crowded admiringly around him, he walked out of the Yi house's main gate and towards the location of the match. Enchanting followed behind at a moderate pace. After a short while, they arrived at the Lin Town arena. Someone had leaked the news. Although it was early in the morning, the arena where the match was to take place was already crowded with many Lin Town citizens. Many people craned their necks and looked around them, as if waiting eagerly for a good show. The accord between the three main families of Lin Town had been disrupted by the arrival of the Long family. The original three main families had declined under the Long family's oppression. Only the Duan family that had earlier sought refuge with the Long family was still robust. Even their disciples had received many benefits. That's strange. Why has the Yi family dared to take up the Duan family's challenge? Who knows? I heard recently that the Duan family brought the fight to the Yi house, but none of the younger members of the Yi family could compete with them. Who knows what has happened for the Yi family to suddenly steal itself? Chapter 969 The Match 1. Haven't you heard? A formidable young member of the Yi family has returned. Does the Yi family have a formidable young member? Could it be that Yi Yu has returned? Everyone was shocked. If the Yi family could be said to have a formidable young member, then it was Yi Yu, who had entered the Yunshao sect. Yi Yu's grandfather had been the great elder of the Yi family. However, her grandfather had foolishly tried to grasp all the power in the Yi family, vanishing in the end. This had happened more than a year ago, but no one knew whether Yi Yu's grandfather was dead or alive. The Yi family avoided all mention of this matter. Instead, they invited a new powerful figure to take up the position of great elder in the Yi family. And in that period, Yi Yu had not returned to Lin Town. Everyone guessed that the Yi family's dissatisfaction towards Yi Yu's grandfather had caused Yi Yu to abandon the Yi family. She had probably deliberately cut off all contact with the Yi family. Indeed, Yi Yu now held the lofty status of the disciple of the Yunshao sect master. Considering her status, without her grandfather, the Yi family was beneath her. It's not Yi Yu, it's Dan Yifan, the grandson of the Yi family's new great elder. Dan Yifan. Where is he from? I haven't heard of him before. I've heard that this Dan Yifan is only in his teens but is already an inner sect disciple of the Latang sect. He has great natural ability. He has probably returned this time to helm the Yi family. An inner sect disciple of the Latang sect. As they discussed it, they could not help but be shocked by Dan Yifan's background. Very few people in the entire Lin town could enter a sect, much less become an inner sect disciple. Yi Yu had been the exception. She had managed to enter the Yunshao sect because of her spirit root. However, this Dan Yifan must be quite formidable to have become an inner sect disciple at such a young age, just based on his natural ability. Just as everyone was fervently discussing the matter, the numerous members of the Yi family, led by Dan Yifan, arrived at the martial arts arena. Everyone's gaze was concentrated on the young man in the lead, who carried himself with extraordinary poise. Just after the Yi family arrived, the Duan family also walked into the martial arts arena. The crowd which had gathered to watch the show immediately quieted down when they saw the members of the Duan family arrive. Today, more than 10 younger members of the Duan family had arrived. In the lead was Duan Luaning, who had gone to the Yi house to issue the challenge. Who does the Yi family intend to send for today's match? A youth from the Duan family advanced and spoke mockingly to the group from the Yi family. Dan Yifan raised his brows slightly and stepped forward. Since you want to play, I shall play with you for a while. What arrogance! The youth from the Duan family glared at Dan Yifan, who had stepped forward. A cold light flashed across his eyes. You only have the advantage of words now. Wait until you get up on the dais. You will probably wet your pants in terror. I'm afraid that you will be the ones to wet your pants, Dan Yifan said blandly. He took no notice of the Duan family's provocation. You! The youth from the Duan family narrowed his eyes and stepped forward swiftly. However, he was suddenly pulled back by Duan Luaning, who was standing behind him. Duan Luaning raised his eyes to look at Dan Yifan and said, "Sparring with words is meaningless. We have already clearly set out the terms of today's fight. There is no need to say any more. Let's begin the fight." Dan Yifan said, "Very well." With that, Dan Yifan swiftly leaped onto the dais, and Duan Luaning followed. "Young Master Dan, give it to the Duan family." The group from the Yi family shouted when they saw Dan Yifan enter the arena. Chapter 970 The Match, 2, How Boastful. I wonder who the people we beat until they howled like stray dogs were. Now, they dared to crawl out of the Yi house and raise a clamor, the youths from the Duan family said coldly. The youths from both families were hot-blooded. Sparks were already flying before the match could begin. They rolled up their sleeves and almost sparred on the spot. At that moment, the Lin town citizens who had crowded around to watch were filled with anticipation. One must know that after the Duan family had sought refuge with the Long family, the ability of the Duan family's disciples had far outstripped that of the Si and Yi families. In their previous fights, the Duan family had been completely victorious. Now, the Yi family had publicly accepted the Duan family's challenge. However, the ability of this Dan Yifan from the Yi family was still unknown. In terms of ability, Duan Luaning was one of the best in Lin town. Except for the Long family, almost none of the younger members of the other major families could compare with him. Even the eldest young master of the Si family, Si Yi, had been defeated by Duan Luaning. Everyone knew that because of the Long family, the Duan family had begun to oppress the other two major families. They had even borrowed the Long family's name and demanded tribute from many of the other major families. If the Yi family was defeated in today's battle, the matter of tribute could no longer be avoided. The two major families were previously on par, but one was now superior to the other. To pay tribute to the other was not just about money but also about the family's dignity. If the Yi family loses today's match, you must pay a monthly tribute to the Duan family from now on. Do you dare to take on this bet? Duan Luaning said coldly as he looked at Dan Yifan. Why wouldn't I dare? Similarly, if the Duan family loses, Dan Yifan narrowed his eyes slightly. Naturally, it will be the same. Duan Luaning replied crisply. With that, Dan Yifan's lips curved in a trace of a confident smile. A cold light immediately flashed across the eyes of the two opponents. In that instant, they acted almost simultaneously. A flash of cold light suddenly exploded from Duan Luaning's hand. Glacial frostbomb. Below the dais, the crowd watched as blasts of cold air spurted from Duan Luaning's palm. The temperature of the surrounding area seemed to drop under the force of his palm. Icy blue cold air seemed to gather in Duan Luaning's palm. It seemed to imperceptibly transform into a glacial ice dragon that suddenly charged at Dan Yifan. The form of the glacial ice dragon was reflected in Dan Yifan's eyes. A chill suddenly surfaced in his eyes. The next instant, he suddenly drew the blazing sun sword at his waist. Roaring hot flames immediately rushed out from his blade. With a stroke of his sword, an endless stream of blazing flames rushed out with a howl, seemingly setting the air on fire. The two savage and cruel forces suddenly collided in mid-air. The glacial ice churned under the blazing flames, and steam began to spread. It was as if the surrounding audience was being roasted or burnt by the hot steam. The hot flames swallowed the glacial ice dragon and bombarded Duan Luaning with a resounding explosion. The group from the Yi family below the dais widened their eyes in excitement as they saw the hot flames rushing away. Young Master Dan, kill that Duan family bastard. Kill him. Let's see if he dares to be so arrogant. Amidst the mingled shouts, Duan Luaning was startled to see the oncoming hot flames. The next instant, he drew the sharp sword at his side. The cold air in his palm gathered on the sword blade and blocked the roaring hot flames. Chapter 971 The Match, 3. By the time the burning flames dispersed, Duan Luaning was rather pale. He squinted at Dan Yifan, who was facing him. His previously relaxed attitude had vanished long ago. This Dan Yifan's abilities far exceeded his expectations. One should know that a few months ago, Duan Luaning had fought with the eldest young master of the Si family, Si Yi. He had defeated the latter without even drawing his sword. He had thought that he would not be forced to use his weapon to deal with Dan Yifan. But who could have guessed? What's the matter? Can't take it. Dan Yifan raised his brows and looked at the ashen Duan Luaning. His eyes were filled with arrogant amusement. You're pretty good. You thought you could block me with your bare hands. You're just too arrogant. Dan Yifan commented. Duan Luaning narrowed his eyes slightly. I was merely letting you have this move. Oh. You're pretty full of yourself. Dan Yifan laughed softly. How dare you? Duan Luaning was enraged by the disdain in Dan Yifan's words. He immediately lifted his sword and slashed at Dan Yifan. Dan Yifan responded deftly but unhurriedly. Duan Luaning was disadvantaged within 3 to 5 moves. He was unable to even defend himself against Dan Yifan's attack. The scene playing out before them confounded the confident group from the Duan family. They had thought that Duan Luaning could easily defeat Dan Yifan. Who would have thought that events would take this turn? You from the Duan family, weren't you very arrogant just now? How come you don't dare to even fart now? The group from the Yi family saw that Dan Yifan had easily beaten Duan Luaning, such that the latter could not even defend himself. They felt thoroughly vindicated. Did the Duan family dare to continue being arrogant? What were their skills compared to Dan Yifan? The watching citizens were awed by what they saw. They thought that Duan Luoning's abilities were already the best among the younger generation. Who would have thought that? They were nothing compared to Dan Yifan of the Yi family. No wonder. Rumor had it that this Dan Yifan was considered a genius from young. Is that all you are capable of? Dan Yifan looked at Duan Luoning, who was sweating profusely, and his lips curved in a mocking smile. With that, he suddenly leaped up. The inner qi in his body suddenly dispersed, and he seemed to be shrouded by burning flames. The next instant, Dan Yifan suddenly brandished the blazing sun sword in his hand. The burning flames that surrounded him seemed to gather. Suddenly, the roar of a dragon rang out from Dan Yifan's sword breath. The burning flames that had gathered on his blade solidified into the shape of a huge dragon. The burning dragon opened its huge mouth and charged at Duan Luoning. The air was distorted by the baking heat of the burning hot flames. Duan Luoning was only in time to see a red glow surround him, but he could not react in time. Boom, boom. A huge explosion suddenly pierced everyone's ears. The burning dragon smashed into the dais. Sparks flew everywhere. Duan Luoning's figure flew pathetically off the dais and smashed into the pillars of the martial arts arena. He fell to the ground with a crash. At that moment, Duan Luoning's body seemed to be burned by flames. His clothes were all burnt black, and a large part of his face was burnt. Chapter 972 The Match 4. Blazing Flame Sword Technique. The watching citizens gaped at the scene before them. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would never have imagined that the blazing flame sword technique, that could only be learned within the sects, would one day be displayed before them. Duan Luoning, is it? You've lost this time. Dan Yifan stood proudly on the dais. His slender figure showed no sign of injury. Everyone from the Duan family suddenly snapped out of their trance and hurried over to help Duan Luoning, who had fallen to the ground. They would never have imagined that Duan Luoning would be so utterly defeated. There was not the slightest wound on Dan Yifan. Based on the terms of our bet, from today onward, the Duan family must pay tribute to the Yi family. Dan Yifan stood proudly as he sheathed the blazing sun sword with a flick of his wrist. Duan Luoning exerted himself and stood up. He glared at Dan Yifan and wanted to say something. However, today's match is not yet over. Your words are premature. A voice suddenly rang out from the martial arts arena. Everyone within the martial arts arena looked towards the voice. But everyone was shocked by what they saw. 3 tall figures had quietly appeared at the entrance to the martial arts arena. The person in the lead was the eldest son of the Duan family, Duan Tianyun. And standing behind Duan Tianyun were the second and third young masters of the Duan family, Duan Tianrao and Duan Tianrue. Eldest young master. The moment the group from the Duan family saw that Duan Tianyun had appeared, their eyes lit up. Duan Tianyun swept a glance at Duan Luoning's injuries and frowned slightly. However, he did not say anything and walked straight towards the dais. You are. Dan Yifan looked at the 3 men who had suddenly appeared. Duan Tianyun said, I am Duan Tianyun from the Duan family. So it's the eldest young master of the Duan family. Dan Yifan nodded slightly. I wonder what eldest young master Duan meant. What did I mean? Wasn't I clear enough? Duan Tianyun laughed coldly. Yesterday, the Duan and Yi families agreed to this match, but any of the younger members of the 2 families can participate in the match. You merely won 1 round, how can you determine the winner? Dan Yifan frowned slightly. But upon careful thought, he realized that Duan Tianyun was right. Below the dais, Yi Qingtang was watching everything expressionlessly. Duan Tianyun was the oldest of the Duan family's 3 sons, but Duan Tianyun had a haughty and mercurial personality and had not been chosen to be the next master of the Duan family. Instead, second young master, Duan Tianrao, had won the favor of the Duan family's master and had been selected to succeed him. Just as Enchanting was watching events unfold, a pair of eyes fell on her quietly. Second brother, isn't that Enchanting? Why is she back? The Duan family's third young master, Duan Tianrui, suddenly saw Enchanting's figure amidst the crowd. He spoke to his second brother, Duan Tianrao, who was standing beside him. When Duan Tianrao heard that, he looked towards Enchanting. Duan Tianrao and Enchanting had been engaged, but after Enchanting's spirit root was destroyed, the engagement was broken. After that, he became engaged to the Yi family's adopted daughter, Yi Sun. However, something had happened on the birthday of the Yi family's previous great elder. After that night, Yi Sun had vanished, and Duan Tianrao had no more contact with the Yi family. He only heard that Enchanting had entered the Xianling sect a year ago, but he had not heard any more news. Chapter 973 The Match 5. Duan Tianrao had regretted it when Enchanting had restored her spirit root and entered the Xianling sect. However, after obtaining the Long family's help, Duan Tianrao had rejoiced that his earlier engagement with Enchanting had been broken. So what if Enchanting had entered the Xianling sect? In the end, with her spirit root, she was destined to be only an outer sect disciple all her life. After he had obtained the Long family's help, she was no longer worthy of him. So what if she returned? It's not a big deal. Duan Tianrao dropped his gaze. Enchanting was of no concern to him at all. His engagement with Enchanting had been dissolved. Yi Sun, whom he had been engaged to later, had vanished. Now, he was on good terms with the young lady of the Long family. In Duan Tianrao's eyes, only a powerful girl like her was worthy to stand by his side. When Duan Tianrui saw that his second brother was so unconcerned, he did not pay any more attention to Enchanting. After all, the Yi family today could not compare with their Duan family. The eldest young lady of the Yi family was, naturally, beneath them. On the other side, Duan Tianyun had slowly ascended the dais. He looked at Dan Yifan, who was standing on the dais, and said, "Since it is a match between the younger generation of the two families, I don't mind giving it a try. You can spout your nonsense after you have beaten me." Dan Yifan narrowed his eyes slightly. "What's the matter? Are you afraid? Or can it be?" A mocking smile flashed across Duan Tianyun's eyes. "The members of the Yi family are cowards. Let's have a match then." Dan Yifan frowned with displeasure. Every word this Duan Tianyun uttered was grating. A smile flashed across Duan Tianyun's eyes. He unbuckled his sword in front of the audience and threw it to Duan Tianrui, who was standing below the dais. "What do you mean by this?" Dan Yifan asked coldly when he saw what Duan Tianyun had done. Duan Tianyun lifted his chin, looked at Dan Yifan, and said, "Do I need a sword to deal with you? My fists will do." What arrogance! A cold look flashed across Dan Yifan's eyes. With that, he raised his sword and slashed at Duan Tianyun. Duan Tianyun's eyes were cold when he saw Dan Yifan charging at him with burning flames. The next second, he suddenly directed all his energy and aimed a mighty blow at Dan Yifan. Enchanting was standing below the dais, watching the two men on the dais. When she saw Dan Yifan's move, she said blandly, "Dan Yifan is no match for Duan Tianyun." "What did you say?" The Yi family disciples standing nearby frowned with displeasure when they heard Enchanting's words. They had all followed the great elder and the third elder into the Yi family and were not close to the eldest young lady, Enchanting. "Eldest young lady, young Master Dan is fighting for our Yi family. You may not be contributing, but you need not run off your mouth here either." "That's right. Young Master Dan is an inner sect disciple of the Leitang sect. How can he lose to that Duan Tianyun? Many of the Yi family disciples did not like Enchanting. Besides her numerous rejections of Dan Yifun's good intentions, Dan Yifun was currently fighting for the Yi family, and it was very annoying for her to speak like that before the fight had even started. Enchanting swept a glance at the unhappy youths and refrained from further speech. But at that moment, there was chaos on the dais. Dan Yifun, shrouded in layers of burning flames, was sent flying by Duan Tianyun's blow. Dan Yifun fell heavily off the dais with a loud crash. The burning flames around him seemed to be covered by a layer of frost. The baking heat was being consumed by the blasts of cold air. Chapter 974. Do you really want me to compete? 1. The peak of the first heaven of martial chi level 1. Duan Tianyun stood unharmed on the dais and looked disdainfully at Dan Yifun. His lips curled in a contemptuous smile. Is that all? Duan Tianyun smirked. There was an uproar below the dais. No one would have imagined that Dan Yifun, who had seemed to be so powerful just now, would be injured by Duan Tianyun in just one move. The youths from the Yi family had been filled with confidence. But now, when they saw blood seeping from the corners of Dan Yifun's mouth, their expectant expressions seemed to freeze. How could this be? Dan Yifun stood up clumsily. It was as if his entire body had been soaked in icy water that was so cold it chilled his bones. Every inch of his skin was permeated with a piercing chill. You are merely at the peak of the first heaven of martial chi level 1. How dare you be so presumptuous towards our Duan family? You are such a fool. Duan Tianyun looked at Dan Yifun coldly. The aura that surrounded him seemed to be poised to swallow the whole world. You have reached second heaven of martial chi level 1. Dan Yifun looked at Duan Tianyun, who was standing before him. The aura surrounding Duan Tianyun was completely different from that of Duan Luaning. At that moment, it was evident that his power was far superior to his. That's right. Duan Tianyun laughed softly and raised his chin proudly. Dan Yifun turned pale. He was only in his teens, and among his age group, he was considered to be a rare genius. Otherwise, he could not possibly have broken through to the first heaven of martial chi level 1 at his age. However, no matter how powerful the peak of the first heaven of martial chi level 1 was, it could not compare to the second heaven. He would never have imagined that the Duan family had Duan Tianyun, who was at the second heaven of martial chi level 1. One must know that in the entire Yi family, only his grandfather and third elder had reached this stage. But Duan Tianyun was so young. Dan Yifun, is it? You seemed really confident just now. Why are you so forlorn now? Duan Tianyun laughed softly and looked at Dan Yifun disdainfully. Dan Yifun's expression was truly ugly. The crowd below the dais was still in an uproar. Although they had heard that Duan Tianyun had broken through to the second heaven of martial chi level 1, no one had actually seen him display his prowess, and they thought that the Duan family had spread the rumors to confuse others. Yet, who would have thought, it was actually true. At that moment, everyone looked at Dan Yifun with a rather pitying expression. No matter how extraordinarily gifted Dan Yifun was, he was no match for Duan Tianyun. Have you brats from the Yi family clearly seen the gap between you and our Duan family? When Duan Tianrui saw that his oldest brother had beaten the Yi family's representative, he mocked them smugly. The youths from the Yi family clenched their fists tightly. They fervently wished they could tear Duan Tianrui's mouth into pieces. Since your skills are inferior, you better obediently crawl away. Everything will be fine as long as you obey the rules and pay your tribute. Why humiliate yourself before everyone from Lin Town like you did today? Duan Tianrui mocked them boldly. These grating words were like knives that carved every word onto the hearts of Yi family's youths. Dan Yifan took a deep breath and diligently tried to push his inner chi around his body. I haven't lost yet, he said coldly as he looked at Duan Tianyun. Oh. You won't give up. Do you really have a death wish? In that case, I'll fulfill your wish. Duan Tianyun's face was a mask of cruelty. Below the dais, Yi Qingtang calmly shook her head as she watched the floundering Dan Yifan. Chapter 975. Do you really want me to compete? 2. Dan Yifan was pretty talented, but his ability was one level below that of Duan Tianyun. The gap between two heavens was as deep as a ravine. No matter how hard he struggled, it was no use. To continue would be like flogging a dead horse. On the dais, Dan Yifan had forced his inner chi to flood his entire body. The burning flames spread through his body and swiftly dispelled the cold air surrounding him. His aura instantly surged. I won't lose, Dan Yifan said coldly. But a mocking smile hung on Duan Tianyun's lips. When the youths from the Yi family, who were below the dais, saw Dan Yifan's suddenly rising aura, a trace of hope surfaced in their eyes. Come on, young Master Dan. We aren't afraid of you Duans. The yells rose and fell. Yi Qingtang continued standing expressionlessly at the same spot. Dan Yifan should retreat, she said somewhat pityingly. But her words were heard by the youths from the Yi family who were standing nearby. They looked at Yi Qingtang in wonder, but their expression seemed to be mixed with resentment. Eldest young lady, young Master Dan is fighting for our Yi family. Why are you rooting for the other side? Yi Qingtang glanced at the youths and said, Duan Tianyun isn't worth rooting for. He is merely average. The youths from the Yi family were so angered by Yi Qingtang's words that they almost vomited blood. They thought that this eldest young lady was just a brainless beauty, shooting off her mouth. The group from the Yi family was unwilling to bandy words with Yi Qingtang. Instead, their eyes were nervously fixed on Dan Yifan, who was on the dais. Dan Yifan mobilized the inner chi in his entire body, and a huge ball of fire suddenly brewed in his chest. The next instant, the fireball exploded and crashed towards Duan Tianyun. However, without batting an eyelid, Duan Tianyun pressed his palms together. When his palms separated again, the oncoming fireball was blocked by his hands. Icy blue cold air shot out of his palms and instantly covered the burning fireball. The fireball that had been composed of an accumulation of roaring flames was instantly frozen by Duan Tianyun's palms into a ball of ice. Let me return this to you. Duan Tianyun's lips curved into a cold smile. Suddenly, his palms pushed the ball of ice so that it flew towards Dan Yifan. Dan Yifan was shocked. He tried to receive the blow but was too weak. The gigantic ice ball instantly crashed into him. There was the sound of ice cracking. Then, Dan Yifan's entire body was sent flying by a huge impact. He landed below the dais. A mouthful of blood instantly sprayed out of Dan Yifan's mouth. His chest that had been smashed by the ice ball was covered with a layer of frost. The frost visibly and rapidly spread throughout his entire body. The youths from the Yi family hurried over and clumsily helped Dan Yifan up. Yi Qingtang saw the layer of frost spreading out from Dan Yifan's chest. With the tip of her finger, she drew a golden tongue of flame and secretly flicked the flame onto Dan Yifan's back. The moment the flame sank into Dan Yifan's back, the frost that was accumulating on his chest slowly melted. But because of the surrounding chaos, no one noticed Yi Qingtang's actions. Duan Tianyun looked at Dan Yifan, who had collapsed on the ground. A cold smile hung from his lips. However, he was inwardly perplexed when he saw from the corner of his eye that the frost on Dan Yifan's chest showed signs of slowly melting. Chapter 976. Do you really want me to compete? 2. By right, Dan Yifun's skin should have been rapidly covered with ice toxin after being hit. Why did the ice toxin suddenly melt? Duan Tianyun was rather perplexed but did not consider the matter further. Perhaps Dan Yifun had some life-saving Dharma treasure on him that he had brought from his sect. With that, Duan Tianyun stood on the dais and swept a look at the ashen youths from the Yi family. Your Yi family abilities are merely average. How dare you nobodies challenge the dignity of our Duan family? The youths from the Yi family all gritted their teeth and glared at Duan Tianyun, who was standing on the dais. Dan Yifun had already fainted from his injuries. If even Dan Yifun could not compete with Duan Tianyun, how could they? What's the matter? Is no one from your Yi family willing to come up on the dais? What a useless bunch. Duan Tianyun looked dismissively at the group from the Yi family. The surrounding audience marveled at the sight before them. They had thought that with Dan Yifun, the Yi family might regain some of its status. Who would have thought that Duan Tianyun would strip them of all their dignity? In the future, the Yi family will certainly decline. In the future, Lin Town will belong to the Duan family and the Long family. Duan Tianyun towered over them and looked down on the group from the Yi family. He suddenly caught a glimpse of a slender figure. Duan Tianyun's expression flickered for a moment, and a trace of malice surfaced in his eyes. He suddenly raised his hand and pointed at the figure amidst the group from the Yi family. Enchanting, you are the eldest young lady from the Yi family. Don't you have the courage to get onto the dais and stand up for your Yi family? Duan Tianyun suddenly singled Enchanting out from among the crowd. It was only then that everyone realized that the eldest young lady of the Yi family, Enchanting, was also present. Everyone immediately looked in the direction of where Duan Tianyun pointed. Sure enough, a slender figure was quietly standing behind the group from the Yi family. With such a gorgeous face, it was surely the eldest young lady of the Yi family, Enchanting. Enchanting had left Lin Town nearly 2 years ago. Although rumor had it that she had entered the Xianling sect, the entire Lin Town knew that she was a mere red spirit root. With her ability, it was already surprising that she could enter the outer sect of the Xianling sect. Even if she had entered the sect, she would probably not have advanced by much. Now, even Dan Yifun of the inner Leitang sect had been defeated by Duan Tianyun. As an outer sect disciple, what could she do? Enchanting had not expected Duan Tianyun to pick on her. However, her face was as expressionless as ever, as if she did not realize that everyone was looking at her in an unfriendly manner. Are you speaking to me? Enchanting raised her eyes slightly and looked at the arrogant Duan Tianyun, who was standing on the dais. Of course. Aren't you the only eldest young lady in the Yi family? Duan Tianyun raised his brows slightly, smiled, and said, Enchanting, your Yi family has declined. The entire younger generation consists of a bunch of useless fools. As the eldest young lady of the Yi family, shouldn't you represent them? With that, Duan Tianyun glanced at his second younger brother, Duan Tianrao, who was standing below the dais. You were previously engaged to my second younger brother, Tianrao. Fortunately, your engagement was dissolved. Otherwise, with your abilities, how could you be worthy to enter our Duan family? However, given our past ties, if you get up on the dais, I will be merciful and not allow you to lose too spectacularly. How about that? Chapter 977. Do you really want me to compete? 4. The moment Duan Tianyun finished speaking, everyone recalled Duan Tianrao and Enchanting's past engagement. What's the matter? Unwilling to compete? Or perhaps, you people from the Yi family are just a useless bunch, as cowardly as mice. Even you, the eldest young lady, are too cowardly to stand up for your Yi family. Duan Tianyun mocked them without mincing his words. He intended to use this match to completely subjugate the Yi family forever. Abusing Yi Qingtang in public would completely shatter the Yi family's dignity. Yi Qingtang looked coldly at Duan Tianyun, who had repeatedly provoked them. Her expression was completely calm, and she asked blandly, "Do you really want me to compete?" "What else?" Duan Tianyun laughed softly and shrugged. "But if you are afraid, it is no big deal. Your Yi family has been utterly defeated in today's match. In the future, you just have to follow the rules and pay tribute to the Duan family. As a start, you have to show your submission to our Duan family in your capacity as eldest young lady of the Yi family." Malice flashed across Duan Tianyun's eyes as he spoke. He smiled and said, "If you publicly kowtow to me 3 times, I won't make things difficult for anyone in your Yi family today. How about that?" The moment Duan Tianyun spoke, the surrounding audience could not help but secretly shake their heads. Yi Qingtang was no match for Duan Tianyun. After today, the Yi family would probably be unable to retain their dignity. Everyone clearly sensed that Duan Tianyun was planning to use Yi Qingtang to destroy the last shred of the Yi family's dignity. "Duan Tianyun, don't go too far." When the youths from the Yi family heard Duan Tianyun's words, they glared at him in rage. Even though they did not like this eldest young lady, Duan Tianyun was insulting the entire Yi family. "What's the matter? Are any of you unwilling to concede defeat? You can always come up on the dais and fight for the Yi family." Duan Tianyun spoke boldly. "The winner takes it all. If any of you can defeat me, I can kneel and kowtow to him and publicly admit defeat. How about that? But, you Yi family members are probably a pile of garbage without the courage and ability to do that." "You!" The youths from the Yi family were enraged. They fervently wished they could hack Duan Tianyun into 1,000 pieces. However, just as the group from the Yi family was raging, Yi Qingtang, who had remained silent all this while, slowly stepped onto the dais. At that moment, everyone below the dais fell silent. They looked in astonishment at Yi Qingtang, standing alone on the dais. Has Yi Qingtang really gone to compete? Is she crazy? I'd say she's really foolish. She can just pretend to be deaf and flee. Why go up there and make a fool of herself? Everyone sighed and shook their heads when they saw the impulsive Yi Qingtang. The youths from the Yi family snapped out of their trance and hurriedly said, "Eldest young lady, come down now." Yi Qingtang was the eldest young lady of the Yi family, but everyone knew that she was no match for Duan Tianyun. But if she was publicly defeated by Duan Tianyun, then the Yi family would truly be utterly embarrassed. "Eldest young lady, don't be impulsive." The group from the Yi family was nervous and angry. Never mind that this eldest young lady had not much ability. Couldn't she refrain from causing trouble? Yi Qingtang did not seem to hear the shouts from the Yi family group. She just stood calmly and faced Duan Tianyun. Chapter 978. Do you really want me to compete? 5. When Duan Tianrui saw Yi Qingtang seeking her own death, he laughed mockingly and said to Duan Tianrao, who was standing nearby, "Second elder brother, I've always said that this Yi Qingtang is rather stupid. Can she spar with eldest brother with her paltry skills? I'm afraid that eldest brother will badly maul her with just one move." Duan Tianrao did not speak, but his expression was dismissive. After Yi Qingtang had recovered her looks, he had thought of reconciling with her. However, she had completely ignored his overtures and, later on, had even given him many cold looks. To the arrogant Duan Tianrao, this was an insult. However, at that moment, Duan Tianrao was rejoicing in Yi Qingtang's actions. If not for her actions back then, he would still be engaged to her. And then, how could he have come into contact with the young lady from the Long family? Now, Yi Qingtang was seeking her own death. He would enjoy the show. Looks like you still have some courage. Duan Tianyun looked disdainfully at Yi Qingtang, who was standing in front of him. He calmly moved his flexed fingers, and the crisp sound of his popping joints could be heard. Don't worry. On the strength of the past relationship between our two families, I won't let you suffer too much. Since you are a girl, I'll make it short. Yi Qingtang's face was expressionless. She looked calmly at the outstandingly arrogant Duan Tianyun. What's the matter? Are you too scared to talk? Never mind, then let me quickly end your terror. A cruel look flashed across Duan Tianyun's eyes. The next second, a ball of icy blue frost suddenly formed in his hand. When the group from the Yi family below the dais saw Duan Tianyun forming ice, their hearts sank. Duan Tianyun had used this move previously to badly injure Dan Yifan. Even Dan Yifan was unable to withstand this blow, much less Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang. Tremble as you feel terror descend on you. Duan Tianyun's expression was viciously mocking. He suddenly raised his fist, and the frost in his hand smashed violently towards Yi Qingtang. Innumerable wisps of cold air shot out together with the frost. It was as if all the moisture in the air froze instantly. At that moment, almost all the youths from the Yi family that were present shut their eyes tightly. They did not dare to see what would happen next. A resounding explosion rang in everyone's ears. The ice and frost that smashed into Yi Qingtang's body instantly exploded in clouds of frost and shrouded the entire dais. Duan Tianyun's lips curved in a smug smile when he saw the billowing clouds of frost. He arrogantly straightened up and cocked his head slightly. He deliberately put on a pitying expression. Oh, how pitiful! But before Duan Tianyun could complete his sentence, the clouds of frost that saturated the dais slowly dissipated. A slender figure slowly emerged from the cloud of frost. Duan Tianyun's unfinished words stuck in his throat. He saw Yi Qingtang standing unharmed in her original spot amidst the cloud of frost. Her robes and accessories were all in place and had not been disturbed at all. Wisps of chilly air were dissipating under the invisible heat rising from Yi Qingtang's body. Yi Qingtang casually glanced at the steaming vapor that was rising from her shoulders. She calmly turned her head and gently blew the vapor away. Chapter 979. Do you really want me to compete? 6. How can this be? Duan Tianyun's eyes widened. He stared disbelievingly at Yi Qingtang, who was completely unscathed. He had exerted his full strength in his previous blow and had not held back at all. Even someone who was also at the second heaven of martial chi level 1 would be injured by this blow. However, why did Yi Qingtang look unscathed? At that moment, the youths from the Yi family all widened their eyes. They thought that Yi Qingtang would collapse, but she was currently standing upright on the dais. All of them were momentarily stunned. This Yi Qingtang has probably brought some Dharma treasure back from the sect. Elder brother, don't hold back. Duan Tianrui, who was standing below the dais, spoke maliciously. When he heard that, Duan Tianyun calmed down. He swept a glance at Yi Qingtang, who had not turned a hair. So you have a life-saving Dharma treasure. No wonder you dared to come and compete, Duan Tianyun laughed softly. I'm looking forward to seeing how much damage your treasure can withstand. The moment he finished speaking, Duan Tianyun extended both hands. Wisps of cold air gathered in his palms. They instantly transformed into gossamer thin ice blades and shot straight at Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang looked expressionlessly at the numerous ice blades that were flying towards her. Her eyes showed a barely perceptible trace of impatience. The instant the ice blades reached her, a light suddenly flashed before her. The hundreds of ice blades instantly vanished. What? Duan Tianyun blinked involuntarily. Where did his ice blades go? Everyone below the dais was also perplexed. They thought that Enchanting was making a fool of herself in this match. However, everything that happened was completely beyond their expectations. "Where did my ice blades go?" Duan Tianyun muttered. Enchanting slowly raised her hand. Crystal-clear drops of water slowly dripped from her slender fingers and formed tiny streaks of water at her feet. "Are you looking for these?" Enchanting asked calmly. What? Duan Tianyun had not yet recovered his wits and did not understand what Enchanting was talking about. Enchanting looked at the stunned Duan Tianyun. The impatience in her eyes became more obvious. "Time to end this," said Enchanting. The crowd below the dais looked in bewilderment at Enchanting, who had spoken suddenly. None of them understood where she had acquired the ability to speak of making an end. Duan Tianyun also felt that Enchanting had gone crazy. Did she really think she was a match for him? "Enchanting, don't reject the life-saving offer. If not for the fact that you are a girl, you would have already died a terrible death at my hands." Duan Tianyun laughed coldly. His figure suddenly darted towards Enchanting. His body was instantly covered in a layer of frost, and a strong chill flooded his entire body. Enchanting looked expressionlessly at Duan Tianyun, who was rushing towards her, and slowly raised her right hand. The instant Duan Tianyun reached her, Enchanting gave Duan Tianyun's forehead a light and perfunctory tap. Thud! A huge crash suddenly rang out in the martial arts arena. With that resounding crash, Duan Tianyun's imposing figure flew straight out, smashing numerous walls in the martial arts arena into smithereens. No one knew where he had landed. Chapter 980 Death Wish 1. A dead silence fell over the entire martial arts arena. Everyone stared disbelievingly at the huge holes that had been smashed in the walls. At that moment, there was no sign of Duan Tianyun on the dais. Only Enchanting was left. "You've lost." Enchanting acted as if nothing had happened. She swept a glance at the stunned group from the Duan family. She slowly walked off the dais under the flabbergasted gaze of everyone present. Eldest brother. Duan Tianrui suddenly snapped out of his trance and hurriedly led the group in the direction in which Duan Tianyun had been sent flying. Only Duan Tianrao was left below the dais in a daze. He looked at the detached figure, his face full of disbelief. What had happened just now? No one present was certain of what had happened on the dais just now. Why was Duan Tianyun suddenly sent flying? They were unable to see any indication of what Enchanting had done. Much less the Duan family and the other citizens of Lin Town. Even the youths from the Yi family were rather stunned. No one was certain of how Enchanting had done it. But, even if they had seen it clearly, no one would believe that the omnipotent Duan Tianyun, who had the power of the second heaven of martial Qi level 1, would be sent flying by a flick of Enchanting's fingers. Why are you still gaping here? Shouldn't you go back? Enchanting said slowly as she looked at the stunned group from the Yi family. With that, she took the lead and walked out of the martial arts arena. Only then did the youths from the Yi family recover their wits. Although they were completely bewildered, with Dan Yifun's injuries in mind, they had no choice but to rush him back to the Yi house to recuperate. But had they really won? At that moment, the youths from the Yi family looked rather dazed. The Yi family, followed by the Duan family, left the large martial arts arena. Only the watching citizens who had personally witnessed these events remained. Although they had personally witnessed everything, it was as if they had seen nothing. Who would have expected this match to have so many twists and turns? Enchanting was the first to reach the Yi house. In the Yi house, the various elders and Yi Ling were already waiting in the main hall. The outcome of that day's match was of utmost importance to them. They saw the main gate of the Yi house suddenly open, and they all turned their gazes towards it. However, only Yi Qingtang walked in. With that, the great elder and third elder could not help but look disappointed. However, a moment later, the majority of the Yi family members also followed. The great elder rose, and his heart filled with anticipation when he suddenly realized that his grandson was being carried back by the united efforts of the group. The great elder's face immediately drained of blood. He hastened over, and third elder and the rest hurriedly followed. What's the matter? What on earth has happened? How was Yifan injured so badly? The great elder was desperately worried when he saw Dan Yifan, who was being carried back by two youths from the Yi family. Dan Yifan had already sunk into a faint. His handsome face was bloodless and ashen. Traces of dried blood could still be seen at the corner of his mouth. Yiling waited for the youths to walk over. He was also shocked to see the extent of Dan Yifan's injuries. They were well aware of Dan Yifan's abilities and had thought that this match would not present him with any great difficulties. Chapter 981 Death Wish 2. Yet, who would have thought? Dan Yifan would be so badly injured. What on earth has happened? Who injured him? Yiling asked with a frown. The youths from the Yi family seemed rather dazed and only snapped out of their trance and replied at Yiling's shout. It was the eldest young master of the Duan family, Duan Tianyun. Duan Tianyun. Yiling and the others were all taken aback. One should know that Duan Tianyun was the most powerful among the younger members of the Duan family. However, Duan Tianyun had not acted before, so they had subconsciously overlooked his existence and thought that Duan Tianyun would not participate in this match. How could it be Duan Tianyun? Wasn't it Duan Luaning who sparred with Yifan? The great elder asked hurriedly. The youths from the Yi family said, it is true that Duan Luaning issued the challenge. At first, it was Duan Luaning who stepped onto the dais with young Master Dan. Young Master Dan even beat Duan Luaning. But Duan Tianyun suddenly entered the arena and stepped up onto the dais in his capacity as a Duan family member. Young Master Dan had no choice but to take him on. Who knew that Duan Tianyun would be so vicious and give no quarter? The youths from the Yi family were enraged when they recalled Duan Tianyun's viciousness during the match. Duan Tianyun had not just been interested in winning, he had been out to kill. That Duan Tianyun. He's so vicious. The great elder's eyes were bloodshot with rage. He wished he could tear Duan Tianyun into pieces. Now is not the time for this. Yifan has been badly injured. We should quickly find someone to treat him, said Yiling with a frown. They had not expected Duan Tianyun to appear. They had thought that the Yi family would certainly win this round. Yet, who would have imagined that an accident like that would happen? Now, they could already guess the conclusion without asking for further details. Among the younger members of the Yi family, Dan Yifan was the most powerful. Now, even Dan Yifan had been defeated by Duan Tianyun. The Yi family had probably lost. Since they already had an idea of what had happened, Yiling and the others did not ask any more questions. Since they could not change the outcome, they would try their best to cut their losses. The great elder hurriedly ordered someone to send Dan Yifan for treatment while Yiling told the other youths from the Yi family to rest for the time being. The youths were all dazed, as if thinking of something. They glanced at Yi Qingtang from time to time, and their expressions were complicated. The Duan family came prepared. Duan Luaning's challenge was only meant to bait them out. They were probably prepared from the start for Duan Tianyun to act. Yiling took a deep breath and involuntarily thought of their previous agreement with the Duan family. If they lost this fight, the Yi family would have to pay tribute to the Duan family. The Duan family's plan was truly malicious. No matter how we considered the matter, we overlooked this point. Come to think of it, they did not allow Duan Tianyun to act so that we would let down our guard, but we were careless to have fallen into their trap. Second elder thumped the table heavily. With this defeat, our Yi family will suffer severe losses, third elder sighed softly. The great elder's expression was extremely ugly. His grandson had been badly injured, and they had fallen into the Duan family's trap. How could he not hate them? Since this is the reality, then we had better be prepared. Otherwise, the Duan family will use it as an excuse to create trouble, and who knows how far they will take matters, third elder said helplessly. They had no choice but to admit that they had lost the bet. Chapter 982 Death Wish 3. Enchanting, who had been standing by the side all this while, could not help but be rendered speechless when she saw her father's and the various elders' mournful looks. She could tell. They thought that the Yi family had lost the match. However, they had not even asked about it. Father, Enchanting felt that she needed to have a good talk with her father about this matter. But Yiling suddenly interrupted Enchanting and said, Tang Tang, you can see the current situation in the Yi family. You should start your journey back to the Xianling sect today. You are not to concern yourself with whatever happens next. As your father, I only hope you can live peacefully within the sect. Even Dan Yifan was unable to turn the Yi family's current situation around. If Enchanting continued to stay here, who knew how many other matters would arise for her to worry over? Could she just finish her sentence? Actually, in this match, our Yi family, Enchanting continued. Eldest young lady, the master has spoken sensibly. You should return to the Xianling sect first. After Yifan recovers from his injuries, I will also ask him to return to the Leitang sect. The great elder sighed softly and helplessly. Since matters had reached this stage, they had no choice but to accept their fate. Was it so hard for her to finish a sentence? Enchanting could not help but feel a little frustrated. She was about to blurt out the outcome to Yiling and the others when someone suddenly kicked open the front door of the Yi house. A few Yi family guards nervously ran in, their faces pale, and said, Master, elders, something terrible has happened. The master of the Duan family is at the door. What? Yiling and the others were all stunned. The Duan family is truly impatient. They've come knocking without delay. The second elder laughed coldly. I would like to see what other tricks the Duan family has up its sleeve. The great elder's expression was somber. Dan Yifan's injuries had filled him with hatred for the Duan family. With that, the great elder led the way by standing up and walking towards the front yard. Yiling and the others followed. Enchanting, who had been continually interrupted, could only speechlessly watch the departing figures of the crowd. Was it so difficult to let her finish her sentence? The commotion in the front yard had alarmed many members of the Yi family. The younger members who had just gone to rest now hurried back. The master of the Duan family, Duan Yangjing, was standing somberly in the front yard on Yi family territory. Behind him stood various elders from the Duan family, Duan Tianrao, and Duan Tianrue. Yiling, come out. Duan Yangjing stepped forward and roared fiercely. When Yiling and the others reached the front yard and saw Duan Yangjing and the others who had come with ill intention, their expressions grew grave. Duan Yangjing, don't go too far. You are now in Yi family territory. You people from the Duan family better behave yourselves. Yiling coldly berated them. Behave? Yi family people dare to talk to me of behaving. If you don't give us a good explanation today, I might even lead men and exterminate the Yi family. Duan Yangjing glared ferociously at Yiling. His eyes were so bloodshot they almost seemed to be dripping blood. When Yiling and the others saw Duan Yangjing's murderous expression, they maintained their dignity but could not help but grumble inwardly. What was the matter with this Duan Yangjing? Why did he bring so many people to come knocking? Even if the Duan family won this match, they should not behave like that. Chapter 983 Death Wish 4. Duan Yangjing looked as if he wanted to eat them alive. Duan Yangjing, what do you mean? Yiling spoke carefully. In the past, their Yi family would certainly not be afraid of an attack from the Duan family. But in the past year, it was not just the younger members of the Duan family who had rapidly improved in terms of ability with the help of the Long family. Even the elders and Duan Yangjing had also improved rapidly. Approximately a year ago, Duan Yangjing's ability had been comparable to that of second elder. But now, he had broken through to the peak of the third heaven of martial Qi level 1 and was a mere step away from martial Qi level 2. Even the elders of the Duan family had all achieved the second heaven of martial Qi level 1. The Yi family currently could not counteract this kind of fighting strength. What do I mean? Yiling, hand your daughter over. Duan Yangjing said coldly. What? Yiling was startled. His daughter. Are you still acting dumb? If you don't hand Yi Qingtang over to me today, our Duan family will slaughter your entire Yi family, threatened Duan Yangjing. Duan Yangjing, my daughter just returned to Lin Town yesterday. She doesn't know anything. Why make things difficult for her? If you have any grievances, you can come after me. Yiling would not budge an inch in matters concerning Yi Qingtang. He did not understand what the matter was with Duan Yangjing to make the latter aggressively demand him to hand over his daughter. Don't know anything. Yiling, don't treat me like a fool. Today, your daughter, Yi Qingtang, severely injured my son Tianyun in the martial arts arena. If you don't hand Yi Qingtang over today, you won't be allowed to leave the Yi house at all. Duan Yangjing roared. The three elders of the Yi family and Yiling were all stunned by Duan Yangjing's words. WH. What? Yiling thought he must have heard wrong. Otherwise, it must Duan Yangjing who had gone crazy. Tang Tang had severely injured Duan Tianyun. What kind of joke was this? Duan Tianyun, you're the villain here. Don't you dare make the first complaint. It was Duan Tianyun from the Duan family who severely wounded my grandson, Dan Yifan. My grandson is now still lying unconscious on the sickbed, but you're here to shift the blame instead. The great elder went forward and berated them. What kind of ability did Yi Qingtang have? She was merely a red spirit root and had just entered the Xianling sect a year ago. How could she possibly have the ability to severely injure Duan Tianyun, who had attained the second heaven of martial Qi level 1? The Duan family was clearly maligning her. Duan Yangjing casually pointed to Duan Tianrao and Duan Tianroe, who were standing nearby. Tell the Yi family what you saw at the martial arts arena. Duan Tianroe immediately said, I saw Yi Qingtang injure my older brother with my own eyes. My older brother had beaten Dan Yifan, but Yi Qingtang suddenly and unexpectedly challenged my older brother. She fought viciously and severely injured my older brother. It's not just me. Even those members of your Yi family who were present would have witnessed it too. Duan Tianroe pointed at the youths from the Yi family, who were standing in the front yard. What happened? Yiling frowned slightly and looked at the youths. These youths had been frightened out of their wits by the conclusion of the match and had forgotten to report to the master. Now that they were publicly questioned, they recounted how Yi Qingtang had beaten Duan Tianyun. The expressions of Yiling and the three elders grew increasingly bemused as the youths spoke. They thought they had lost the match. Had the Yi family actually won? Oh. Chapter 984 Death Wish 5. now that matters have reached this state, what do you have to say for yourselves? Duan Yangjing looked coldly at everyone from the Yi family. Even he had been completely taken aback by the news he had just heard. He had flown into a rage when he saw Duan Tianyun being carried back by Duan family members. The injuries that Duan Tianyun had sustained throughout his body were unusually severe. The bones throughout his body had been crushed. Although Duan Yangjing had invited numerous famous doctors to treat Duan Tianyun, the results had caused Duan Yangjing to break down. Duan Tianyun's injuries had extended to his organs and affected his veins. Even if he recovered, he would probably be crippled. In the future, it would be impossible for him to continue his martial arts cultivation, much less return to the peak of the second heaven of martial Qi level 1. Yi Ling and the elders exchanged looks. Even with the youths from the Yi family as witnesses, they still found it hard to accept the situation. However, it looked like they would have no time to ponder how Yi Qingtang had severely injured Duan Tianyun. In the face of Duan Yangjing's aggressive stance, Yi Ling blandly spoke. The Duan family was the first to suggest this match. Fights are dangerous, and injuries are common on the dais. Not only was someone from your Duan family injured, but someone from our Yi family was also severely injured. What is there to say? Rubbish. Duan Yangjing bellowed coldly. Your Yi family skills are inferior, so it's not surprising you sustained injuries. But my son is so talented, how could your daughter, Yi Qingtang, have injured him so severely? Today, I will make Yi Qingtang pay an eye for an eye. Duan Yangjing's unreasonableness infuriated the Yi family. Did they mean that the people from the Duan family counted as human beings but not those from the Yi family? Duan Yangjing, don't go too far. Yi Ling shouted coldly. He drew the sword at his side with a ringing sound. The three elders behind him also drew their swords. Go too far. Duan Yangjing laughed coldly. A malicious gleam suddenly flashed across his eyes. So what if I'm bullying you today? Men, even if you have to completely overturn the Yi family, you must capture Yi Qingtang today. At Duan Yangjing's command, the group of Duan family members behind him immediately drew their swords and faced off with the group from the Yi family. The youths from the Yi family saw that things had gone awry and prepared for battle. I heard that, you want to capture me. A clear female voice suddenly rang out from behind them. The moment she finished speaking, Yi Qingtang slowly walked out from behind the group from the Yi family. Tang Tang. Yi Ling was startled when he saw his daughter suddenly move forward. Yi Qingtang gave Yi Ling a placating look and walked to face the group from the Duan family. Yi Qingtang, you've finally appeared. Duan Yangjing looked at Yi Qingtang, who had emerged from the crowd. His bloodshot eyes looked at her as if he wanted to flay her alive. Oh. Yi Qingtang looked expressionlessly at the furious Duan Yangjing. Men, capture Yi Qingtang. Duan Yangjing shouted. Let's see who dares to try. Yi Ling stepped in front of Yi Qingtang, and the group from the Yi family also advanced a step. Father, let me deal with this. Yi Qingtang placed her hand on Yi Ling's shoulder and spoke calmly. Yi Ling hesitated, but Yi Qingtang had already walked in front of Yi Ling. Her calm eyes swept across the group from the Duan family. You wish to avenge Duan Tianyun, said Yi Qingtang. Chapter 985 Death Wish 6. You've injured my son. Of course I want your life as compensation, said Duan Yangjing coldly. My life? Yi Qingtang looked at Duan Yangjing. I'm afraid you won't be able to take that. Without waiting for Duan Yangjing to reply, Yi Qingtang said without consulting anyone, enough nonsense. Since you want revenge, all of you should come at me at the same time. What? Yi Qingtang's words surprised everyone. Tang Tang, you mustn't be impulsive. Yi Ling was shocked. The group from the Duan family were enraged by Yi Qingtang's arrogant words. With that, an elder from the Duan family leaped up and struck a blow at Yi Qingtang. "Little girl, how dare you boast?" Yi Qingtang lifted her head slightly and saw the Duan family elder leaping towards her. She slowly lifted her hand and met his palm with her own palm. There was a huge bang. When the two palms met, the crisp sound of a bone breaking could be heard from the Duan family elder's arm. There was the sound of an explosion, and the shards of white bone pierced through the skin of his arm. He was instantly sent flying by the force of the impact. But Yi Qingtang stood motionlessly at her original spot. Her upraised palm was completely unharmed. The faint smell of blood permeated the front yard of the Yi house. Yi Ling and the others widened their eyes in disbelief as they looked at the Duan family elder, who had collapsed onto the ground. This elder was at the mid-stage of the second heaven of martial qi level 1. Outside of the Long family, few people in the entire Lin town was a match for him. However, his entire arm had been rendered useless by one blow of Yi Qingtang's palm. "I said, you should all come at me at the same time, don't you understand?" Yi Qingtang looked coldly at the Duan family elder, who had collapsed to the ground with a broken arm. The group from the Duan family looked in shock at the Duan family elder who had collapsed to the ground, their eyes full of disbelief. How could this be? "Kill her!" Duan Yangjing bellowed. The moment he finished speaking, the group from the Duan family rushed forward and pounced on Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang stood motionless in her original spot, looking at the group from the Duan family that was rushing forward. Her eyes were expressionless. As the group rushed up, she suddenly raised her eyes, which had been slightly lowered. The moment she lifted her eyes, an intangible aura suddenly burst from her body. Boom, boom. There was an ear-splitting crash. Before the men from the Duan family even knew what was happening, the intangible force sent them flying in all directions while they were still in midair. In a blink of an eye, the men from the Duan family were scattered throughout the Yi house courtyard. Each of them spat out a mouthful of fresh blood when they landed on the ground. Even Duan Yangjing, the most powerful of the Duan family, who had reached the peak of the third heaven of martial qi level 1, collapsed to the ground, unable to get up. A column of blood sprayed from his mouth. In the blink of an eye, everyone from the Duan family had been utterly defeated. The front yard of the Yi house was a sea of weeping and wailing. Yi Ling and the three elders were completely stunned. They gaped at the group from the Duan family who had collapsed on the ground. They had no idea what had just happened. Why had all of them collapsed onto the ground, heavily injured, when Yi Qingtang had not even moved? Yi Qingtang shook her head blandly when she saw the men from the Duan family, who had collapsed on the ground. Then without consulting anyone, she walked towards Duan Yangjing. At that moment, the previously aggressive Duan Yangjing who had been baying for blood was lying on the floor, his face ashen. "I forgot something just now." Yi Qingtang faced Duan Yangjing. Her eyes were slightly lowered, and from her vantage point, she looked at Duan Yangjing, who had fallen to the ground. "Your son, Duan Tianyun, said on the dais that if he lost, he would publicly kowtow to me 3 times, Yi Qingtang said unhurriedly. "However, he probably can't get up right now." In that case, Yi Qingtang suddenly raised her hand, caught hold of Duan Yangjing's collar, and lifted him off the ground. "As his father, you should do it in his stead." Chapter 986 Rare Treasure 1. With that, Yi Qingtang did not give Duan Yangjing any time to react and simply shattered Duan Yangjing's kneecap with a kick. She pressed Duan Yangjing's head down and smashed it against the floor with a crash. 1. "You bastard! Yi Qingtang, I'll kill you." Duan Yangjing, who was pressed to the ground, had never been humiliated like that. Crash! Enchanting lifted Duan Yangjing's head up and then smashed it on the ground again. 2. Duan Yangjing's face had been heavily smashed on the ground twice in succession. His nose bridge had already been smashed to smithereens. Large patches of blood trickled out of his wound onto the ground. But Enchanting did not seem to notice. She lifted Duan Yangjing's head up and smashed it onto the ground again. Crash! There was another heavy thump. Duan Yangjing's face was pressed into a depression in the ground. His body twitched a few times, but he did not make another sound. 3. Enchanting straightened up at the last count. Her gaze swept across the faces of the other members of the Duan family, who had all collapsed on the ground. The moment Enchanting's gaze passed over them, they felt a chill spreading throughout their bodies. Who else wants revenge? Enchanting looked at the members of the Duan family. The Duan family members did not dare to even emit a peep. Based on the rules, the Duan family must henceforth pay tribute to the Yi family every month. Isn't that right? Enchanting repeated her question when she saw that no one had replied. The Duan family members looked at Duan Yangjing, who had fallen to the ground. They could not tell if he was dead or alive. No one dared to refuse. They all nodded vigorously, each afraid that they would be next. Enchanting looked at the group from the Duan family and said, "Scram." With that, the Duan family did not dare linger around any longer. They stood up clumsily and dragged the half-dead Duan Yangjing up from the ground. Then, they hurriedly slunk away from the Yi house. The Yi family members only snapped out of their trance when everyone from the Duan family had left. Tang, Yi Ling looked at his daughter, both surprised and pleased. "Father, these matters are not urgent. I have not had a chance to have a good talk with you since my return. I have some things here that the family might find useful." Enchanting looked at Yi Ling and sighed inwardly. When she had returned yesterday, she had wanted to have a good chat with her father and also distribute some items in her space ring to everyone in the Yi family. But before Yi Ling and the others could comprehend the implications of Enchanting's words, Enchanting had already opened her space ring. She reached inside. Cling! Clang! Enchanting pulled out a pile of weapons. She did not look at them closely and just stuffed a few of them in Yi Ling's hand. When everyone from the Yi family glanced at them, they almost fainted from shock. The weapons that Enchanting had casually handed over were all divine weapons of yellow grade or above. Tang, these things. Before Yi Ling could finish speaking, Enchanting simply pulled out another pile. When she saw that Yi Ling's hands were full, she turned and stuffed them into Second Elder's hands. Another pile of yellow-grade weapons. Enchanting pulled out 3 or 4 piles. Her father's and the 3 elders' hands were all full. And here are some elixirs. They are quite effective in improving your powers. Father, take them and distribute them to everyone. With that, Enchanting pulled a pile of elixirs out of her space ring and stuffed them in the hands of a youth from the Yi family. Chapter 987 Rare Treasure 2. The youth's eyes popped out as he looked at the elixirs that had been stuffed into his arms. His legs went soft when he glanced at them. Even though he had never seen these elixirs in real life, he had heard of them in legends. Even the most stupid person could progress through several levels within a few days just by gulping down these elixirs. Everyone from the Yi family knew the value of the items that Enchanting had taken out of her space ring. They all widened their eyes in disbelief. All these items were surpassingly precious. To the Yi family, every weapon was a top-grade divine weapon that they seldom saw in everyday life. If even the most ordinary disciple from the Yi family wielded it in battle, his martial skills would advance swiftly, probably by more than one level. Are these premium yellow-grade weapons? The great elder looked at Yi Qingtang in shock. In Lin Town, even the half-step Yin Yang perfected lord of the Long family only had a superior yellow-grade weapon. He had certainly never owned a premium yellow-grade divine weapon. However, Yi Qingtang had brought out 10 weapons. Tang Tang, Yi Ling gaped at Yi Qingtang. He was momentarily speechless. Only then did everyone from the Yi family realize why Yi Qingtang had shown no interest when Dan Yifan had tried to give her his sword. It was because Yi Qingtang had so many yellow-grade divine weapons. Qingtang, where did you get these treasures? Yi Ling spoke in a shocked tone after a moment. Even if Yi Qingtang had only brought out just one item, it would probably incite all the martial arts cultivators in Lin Town to strive for it with all their might. But before Yi Qingtang could explain, the third elder's eyes flashed, and he suddenly said, "It is rumored that the Xianling sect that eldest young lady is in has a mystic realm. Could it be that eldest young lady has passed the test for the mystic realm and entered it to obtain a great destiny?" When they heard the third elder's guess, everyone in the Yi family was suddenly enlightened. It was probably as the third elder had said. The destinies in a sect's mystic realm were said to be incredible. Even black-grade divine weapons existed, much less premium yellow-grade divine weapons. Something like that. Yi Qingtang did not protest and simply went along with what the third elder had said. Actually, the third elder was not too far off the mark. Yi Qingtang had gotten lucky at the 100 level of the Hell of Avicenaraka, where numerous powerful cultivators from sects had been killed or injured. It was almost the same as having obtained a destiny from a sect's mystic realm. No wonder the eldest young lady could single-handedly defeat the Duan family. The great elder looked at Yi Qingtang meaningfully. Based on Yi Qingtang's abilities and cultivation as an outer sect disciple, it was simply out of the question for her to defeat the current Duan family. However, if Yi Qingtang had entered the sect's mystic realm and obtained some great destiny and various Dharma treasures, then it was entirely possible for her to single-handedly defeat the Duan family. AI. Eldest young lady, although all these are divine items, the combined strength of the Long family is just too great. The half-step Yin Yang perfected lord is near invincible, not to mention the other martial Qi level 2 and 3 cultivators in the Long family. I'm afraid that if the Long family catches sight of these treasures, it will lead to the extermination of our Yi family, third elder sighed while looking at Yi Qingtang. When they heard the third elder's words, the great elder and a few of the senior members of the Yi family also looked worried. Chapter 988 Rare Treasure 3. The Duan family was the Long family's lackey. Every action had its consequences. When one beat a dog, one must answer to its master. Previously, Yi Qingtang had entered the match in her capacity as a member of the younger generation and defeated a younger member of the Duan family. This was excusable, and others would have no grounds for accusing her. However, Yi Qingtang had now taught the entire Duan family a vicious lesson. Given the vengeful nature of the Duan family, they would certainly not let it go. If the Long family also got involved, the consequences were unthinkable. To the Yi family, the divine treasures that Yi Qingtang had taken out of her space ring were like hot potatoes. Yi Qingtang swept a glance at everyone. Did this mean that they were blaming her? AI, eldest young lady, I'm afraid we aren't fortunate enough to own these treasures. Considering how you treated the Duan family today, the Long family will certainly make an appearance. Why don't we hand these treasures over to the Long family first? That would be better than the Yi family being exterminated, said the third elder. Although everyone in the Yi family was extremely unwilling to follow the third elder's suggestion, it was presently the most appropriate plan. With these treasures in hand, their abilities would increase so greatly in a short span of time that they would be vastly different from their past selves. But no matter how powerful they were still no match to the Long family. If they were unwilling to hand the treasures over, the Long family would snatch them away. Then, they might lose their lives, not to mention their possessions. After weighing the pros and cons, the third elder's plan seemed to be the most reliable. How can we just give these treasures to the Long family for no reason? If we do that, what kind of standing will the Yi family have? The second elder shouted coldly. That's right. The great elder nodded and chimed in, the Duan family went too far and even severely injured my grandson. If our Yi family now hands all these Dharma treasures over, we will have no reputation left. Great elder, of course I understand what you are thinking. The third elder looked at the great elder and the second elder and said, if we retain these treasures, they can indeed cause our martial arts abilities to span several levels. It will be an easy matter to crush the Duan family and their ilk. But can we depend on these treasures to oppose the Long family? Ultimately, which is more important, the treasures or our lives? So what? If worse comes to worst, we will fight the Long family to death, shouted the great elder. Great elder, I know you are angry because your grandson was injured. But let go of your anger. Opposing the Long family is like using an egg to smash a rock. Even if we die, they won't be harmed. The third elder sighed. At present, all Yi family disciples, including the majority of the senior members of the Yi family, all agreed with the third elder. They were willing to offer the treasures that Enchanting had brought to the Long family. Are you making this decision without consulting me? These things belong to me. Enchanting swept a glance at the Yi family's disciples and senior members before speaking calmly. When they heard that, one of the senior members of the Yi family frowned and said, eldest young lady, what are you saying? If you had not forced the Duan family's hand, would we need to do this? That's right. Eldest young lady, even if you have entered the sect's mystic realm and obtained a great destiny, you cannot possibly oppose the Long family. Furthermore, the Duan family is the Long family's lackey. You are well aware of all these facts, but you still battered the Duan family without restraint. Aren't you aware of the consequences? As the eldest young lady of the Yi family, what you said is truly disappointing. Chapter 989 The Long Family 1. As a few of the Yi family members spoke coldly, many of the Yi family disciples started to discuss the matter among themselves. Although Enchanting is powerful, her power depends on the treasures obtained from the mystic realm. It was pretty good for her to be able to crush the Duan family, but opposing the Long family, that's a joke. That's right. As the eldest young lady of the Yi family, she clearly knew the relationship between the Duan family and the Long family but still relied on the treasures she obtained from the mystic realm to humiliate the Duan family. She wasn't just humiliating the Duan family, she was trying to exterminate the Yi family. Enchanting still can't bear to let go of her treasure at this point. She doesn't care if the Yi family is exterminated. A few of the Yi family disciples looked resentfully at Enchanting. At that moment, Yi Ling's expression was extremely gloomy. If his daughter was really like that, would she have distributed the treasures to everyone in the Yi family? Shut up, everyone! Yi Ling shouted coldly. However, before Yi Ling could say anything more, a few young men and women strolled to the front door of the Yi house. Among them was a man dressed in white, with a cold and arrogant demeanor. It was Duan Tianrao, who had doubled back after leaving with the Duan family. Standing in front of Duan Tianrao was a girl in red who carried an aloof expression. The girl had also brought along 2 maidservants. Young lady of the Long family. Long Rui. Everyone in the Yi family was shocked when they saw the girl in red. The girl in red's name was Long Rui, and she was the beloved daughter of the master of the Long family. Furthermore, her ability had entered the realm of the second heaven of martial qi level 2, and she was the most outstanding supernaturally talented person in the Long family. Duan Tianrao was currently sweeping a glance around him. When he saw the Yi family shrink back, he glanced at Enchanting with a trace of smugness. Fortunately, he had made a clean break with Enchanting previously, and Yi Sun had also suddenly disappeared. Otherwise, he would not have had the immense good fortune of meeting Long Rui and have the hope of becoming the Long family's high-ranking son-in-law. Enchanting could never compare with his Long Rui, whether in terms of family background, martial arts ability, or talent. It was almost as if they were from two different worlds. The presence of the young lady from the Long family is a great honor for our humble Yi house. The third elder looked at Long Rui smilingly. However, before Long Rui could speak, one of the Long family's maidservants said, "Who is Enchanting?" When they heard that, everyone from the Yi family was shocked. Could it be because of the incident with the Duan family? "May I ask, why are you looking for the eldest young lady of our Yi family?" the third elder asked gingerly. "Enough nonsense." The maidservant of the Long family shouted coldly. "I'll ask the questions, and you'll answer. Who is Enchanting? You're looking for me." Enchanting spoke first without giving the third elder an opportunity to reply. "You are Enchanting." The maidservant from the Long family looked Enchanting over coldly with an attitude of superiority. Her eyes were full of disdain. "Your Yi family is really bold." The maidservant from the Long family suddenly shouted coldly. "Doesn't the Yi family know about the relationship between the Duan family and the Long family? What gave you the courage to condone this reckless and contemptible buffoon from your family, who provoked the Duan family?" At that moment, everyone from the Yi family looked at each other, unsure of how to reply. "A misunderstanding, there must be a misunderstanding. It is not what you think, that's right. Our young lady has just returned. She hasn't been in Lin Town for 2 years and did not know the rules. We hope the Long family won't blame her." A group of senior members from the Yi family hurried forward to explain matters. Chapter 990 The Long Family, 2. Is this your so-called ex-fiancé? Long Rui, who had not spoken until then, suddenly looked at Duan Tianrao, who was standing in front of her. She had naturally heard about Duan Tianrao's past since her arrival in Lin Town. Duan Tianrao smiled helplessly when he heard Long Rui's words. "Which of us is better?" asked Long Rui. "Roller, how can you lower yourself by comparing yourself to her? I don't know what my parents saw in her, both of you are from different worlds," said Duan Tianrao as he looked at Long Rui. Veins immediately popped out on Yiling's forehead. No matter what, Duan Tianrao had been his daughter's ex-fiancé. Even though the engagement had been dissolved, he should not treat her like that. However, Yiling did not dare to say anything in front of the Long family, for fear that something he said might lead to the Yi family being exterminated. "Enchanting, why aren't you kneeling?" With that, the maidservant from the Long family looked at Enchanting and shouted at her coldly. "You want me to kneel?" Enchanting's lips curved slightly in a trace of a bemused smile, as if she had just heard the world's funniest joke. "Why do you dare to refuse?" The eyes of the two maidservants from the Long family glittered coldly. All the senior members of the Yi family quavered at this scene. "Everyone from the Long family, please don't be angry. The eldest young lady of our Yi family was in the wrong. Of course she should kneel and apologize, of course she should. That's right, we will certainly make the eldest young lady apologize and give the Long family a satisfactory account." A few senior members of the Yi family spoke ingratiatingly while cold sweat seeped from their brows. "That would naturally be the best, so that we won't have to waste time," one of the maidservants from the Long family said. "Eldest young lady, this is the young lady of the Long family. We cannot afford to offend them. Just kneel and apologize. I'm sure the Long family will be gracious and drop the matter. Qing Tang, please don't be impulsive. If you don't kneel, not just the Yi family, but even you will not leave Lin Town alive. Eldest young lady, it's just kneeling for an apology. In any case, you were in the wrong in this case. If you were showing off in the match between the Duan family and the Yi family, then you should have left it at that. Now, even the master of the Duan family has been. Hurry up and kneel to Miss Long Rui and these two young ladies from the Long family and admit your guilt. All the senior members of the Yi family looked at Yi Qingtang and spoke in rapid succession. Before Yi Qingtang could say a word, a maidservant from the Long family said, Yi Qingtang, if you kneel, you will live. If you refuse, you will die. When she heard that, Yi Qingtang nodded slightly and responded. Now, I am giving you a chance. If you kneel and admit you were wrong, I will allow you to live. Otherwise, you will die. Yi Qingtang, what nonsense are you spouting? With that, all the senior members glared at Yi Qingtang in rage. How dare she talk to the ladies from the Long family like that? Did this Yi Qingtang really have a death wish? Yi Qingtang, as a senior member of the Yi family, I order you to immediately kneel and apologize to the two young ladies from the Long family. That won't be necessary. One of the maidservants from the Long family laughed coldly. We already gave you a chance. A pity you did not treasure it. As the maidservant from the Long family finished speaking, the two of them swiftly vanished from the yard. Swoosh! Swoosh! Two long swords were unsheathed and swung straight for Yi Qingtang. However, Yi Qingtang was still standing motionless in her original spot. The two maidservants from the Long family were extremely fast. However, to Yi Qingtang, they were basically like crawling ants. Chapter 991 The Long Family, 3. The next moment, Yi Qingtang used two fingers to swiftly intercept the long swords wielded by the two maidservants from the Long family. You dare to resist? The two maidservants from the Long family shouted coldly in rage. Yi Qingtang's lips immediately curved upwards. She formed the aura of the seventh heaven Yang Lord into a straight line and suddenly enclosed the two maidservants from the Long family in it. The two maidservants from the Long family, who had been so overbearingly arrogant just a moment ago, were completely stunned. They trembled violently all over when they felt the force of the Yang Lord. Everyone present saw that the two maidservants from the Long family seemed to be suddenly struck dumb and were rooted to the spot. No one knew just what had happened. The invincible power of the Yang Lord had swept the maidservants from the Long family into an abyss from which there was no redemption. The shocking power of a seventh heaven Yin-Yang perfected Lord instantly wiped out the physical and mental strength of the two maidservants from the Long family. It was no exaggeration to say that even Long family's master, who was known as the invincible Yin-Yang perfected Lord Half-Step, was tens of thousands of times weaker than Yi Qingtang in terms of pure martial power, much less these two maidservants. Yi Qingtang was 8 realms beyond them. If she wanted to, she could kill all living things within the entire Lin Town with just her force. She could turn Lin Town into a dead town within the span of a single breath. The ignorant have no fear. Yi Qingtang looked at the two shocked maidservants from the Long family. With a light dab of her finger, she instantly pierced through their brows. As everyone looked on in disbelief, the two maidservants from the Long family collapsed to the ground like a pile of soft mud. They were dead. Yi Qingtang, you dare. At that moment, all the disciples and the senior members of the Yi family stared at the two maidservants from the Long family in disbelief. The statuses of these two maidservants were immaterial. Even an insignificant servant in the Long family was a member of the Long family. Yi Qingtang had publicly killed these members of the Long family. Many members of the Yi family had already felt uneasy when Yi Qingtang had injured Duan Yongjing. Now, this feeling grew even stronger. Yi Qingtang, you dare to rely on the treasures you obtained from the mystic realm of your sect to kill members of the Long family. Some senior members glared at Yi Qingtang and shouted at her angrily. Not only would Yi Qingtang have to die for offending the Long family, but they would also be implicated. Even Yi Ling had not thought that Yi Qingtang would really kill the maidservants from the Long family. Mystic realm of the sect, treasure. When she heard the senior member's words, Long Rui muttered thoughtfully to herself. This Yi Qingtang must have obtained numerous treasures from the mystic realm of her sect. My father was also utterly defeated by those treasures. Duan Tianrao frowned and said. He had been puzzled by how Yi Qingtang had suddenly become so powerful. Now that he heard what the Yi family said, he thought that it was plausible. So there really is a treasure. Long Rui immediately swept a glance at her surroundings. When she saw the weapons that everyone in the Yi family was holding, a look of surprise flashed across her eyes. The Yi family had numerous premium yellow-grade weapons, and she also spotted many valuable elixirs. Each item was so valuable that it was difficult to estimate its worth. Even her father's divine weapon was merely a superior yellow-grade weapon. Long Rui immediately closed both eyes and used the power of communication that was unique to the Long family to connect with her father. Within the span of 2 breaths, Long Rui reopened her eyes and looked at Duan Tianrao. My father and the others have arrived. Chapter 992 The Long Family. 4. When they heard Long Rui's words, everyone in the Yi family was shocked. Long Rui's father, the master of the Long family, the invincible half-step yin-yang perfected lord. Doomed, we're doomed, we've actually disturbed a half-step yin-yang perfected lord. The senior members of the Yi family looked rather stunned. The great elder clenched his fists. He had not expected matters to reach this stage. The third elder gritted his teeth. This Yi Qingtang had not only brought disaster on herself, but she had also brought disaster on them and the entire Yi family. A person could be arrogant and ignorant, but not that arrogant and ignorant. The Long family was so powerful. No matter what kind of destiny and treasures Yi Qingtang had obtained from the sect's mystic realm, no matter how powerful she was, she could not possibly oppose the Long family. To Long Rui and the others, it was not important that Yi Qingtang had killed the 2 maidservants from the Long family. However, the treasures in the Yi family were shocking. Even her father would be shocked and shaken when he arrived and saw the premium yellow-grade weapons and the priceless elixirs, much less Long Rui. If they could completely possess these items, the Long family would be elevated. Before entering the Yi family, Long Rui had already ordered the guards of the Long family to completely surround the Yi house. Ever since the Yi family had attacked the Duan family, Long Rui had already decided to uproot the entire Yi family and avenge the Duan family. Third elder, your Yi family certainly has many treasures. Long Rui suddenly looked at the third elder of the Yi family and blandly spoke. When he heard that, the third elder immediately smiled ingratiatingly. Miss Long Rui, you can choose any that you like. As long as it catches Miss Long Rui's eye, of course, I like them. However, I am not just choosing 1 or 2. The Long family wants them all, said Long Rui. Many of the Yi family's disciples looked helpless when they heard Long Rui's words. These treasures were too far beyond their grasp. If they forcefully retained them, they would certainly die. In the end, they still had to hand these treasures over to the Long family. Miss Long Rui, if you like them, you can take them all. In any case, our Yi family was preparing to present all these divine weapons and elixirs to the Long family, the third elder said hurriedly. Although Yi Ling, the great elder, and the second elder were currently displeased with the Long family was just too powerful. If they wanted to protect the Yi family, this was their only choice. If they rebelled, the consequences would be disastrous. If it was the Duan family, the Yi family might still fight to the death, and at worst, both sides would suffer losses. But the Long family was different. In the face of such a huge entity, the Yi family did not have any room to protest. I am very curious as to how the Yi family suddenly acquired so many divine weapons and Dharma treasures. Or perhaps the Yi family has a strong foundation that it did not display in the past. Long Rui looked at the third elder and carried on talking. Miss Long Rui, all these were brought back by the eldest young lady of our Yi family, Yi Qingtang. As you know, Yi Qingtang is an outer sect disciple of a sect and had the immense good fortune to enter the mystic realm of the sect. She was rather lucky and obtained these destinies. The third elder recounted the facts. Long Rui looked thoughtful when she heard the third elder's words. Just as Duan Tian Rao had guessed, this eldest young lady of the Yi family must certainly be carrying a great treasure on her person. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.